This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
In this world, there are heroes and there are devils. But in the kitchen of hell, the devil is the hero. Welcome to The Devil You Know. Good evening, dear friends, and welcome to Season 2 of Episode 4 of The Devil You Know, in which we talk about Season 3, Episode 4 of Daredevil on Netflix. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. Season 3, Episode 4... Blindsided. Well, Matt infiltrates a prison to find information on the Albanians. Fisk puts Dex in his crosshairs, and a fed-up Foggy goes on the offensive. Our director this night is Alex Garcia Lopez. Of course, Stan Lee and Bill Everett getting those all-important created by credits from Marvel. And we got Drew Goddard gets our created by Liwa Nesserdeen gets our written by. Tonya Kong is our story editor. And hardest, most unrecognized woman in show business, Sarah Streicher, is our uncredited staff writer. Okay, and this episode opens the way I think we want every episode to open, with a naked Wilson Fisk taking a shower with a ankle bracelet on. And I think we can all agree that you know, a beefed up Vincent D'Onofrio naked is how we want to start every day.
Some of us, perhaps, yeah, I guess.
No, and we get a nice little view of you know, the start of, because he's back in his apartment, but we can definitely see that there is still an effort, especially on the part of the police monitoring him, to not let him forget he is still a prisoner.
Especially by Dex.
Yeah, Dex is very, very bullying to him, I think the phrase one might use. Although, obviously, it's not unwarranted. This is Wilson Fisk, after all, and he just conned his way out of prison, you know, because... Yeah, you know, I think it's fair to say that everyone understands that, you know, Wilson Fisk may be giving up a lot, but he's also getting a huge break and all.
Right. And he acts as if at every moment he's exactly where he's supposed to be. You know, like this is all part of the plan. I love the way he deals with Dex too. Complete, you know, deference. And he's waiting for him, hands up, you know, facing the wall before he ever enters. At every point Dex tries to get a little bit of enjoyment out of needling him, he won't give it to him. He's so stoic. It's pretty awesome.
And that is not for nothing. That is why Kingpin is so good at what he does, you know? He is really, and I really think that one of the things that we're going to start seeing as this opens up, because I think, especially by the end of this, you do see Fisk, you know, starting to sink his hooks into young Dex, you know, and I think...
It's so funny, the way they've been leading you along. Like, at first I thought he was just impressed that he was, you know, a rough and tough guy that could handle himself and was a sure shot. And then I thought maybe he wants to take him under his wing because he sees something in him, a darkness that he identifies with, a darkness that he feels maybe Dex isn't able to express fully yet because he doesn't understand himself or enough to be able to unleash that power. Maybe that's the role he wanted to take, as like a mentor or something, or obviously as also somebody working for him. But as we find out here, it's like, man, he has even deeper plans. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, and that like I said, this is where we really start to see Fisk kind of being so much in control. I mean, and how we see really already, because he's only been in there a little time. You know, he's only been in there a little time, and already he is. You can see how much he is totally in control of everything. Because, you know, he's got the closed circuit TV set up, he's got his people on the inside that we see.
And he has access to a phone. The kind of person he is, you can't give him access to a phone. You know, that's a little silly.
Well, except, you know, obviously this man is...
Sounds like he has access to a whole lot more, though.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, none of this happens without, you know... And it's one of these things where, this is where you have to understand almost immediately how deep his tendrils are going. Just because I have watched ahead, we do see Kingpin in absolute true Kingpin form as he goes forward. He is very much manipulating things, and you can see very much how he is in control of everything that's happening. And it is this thing where you really start to see by this episode, Matt is 100% right. You know, that everyone is being played by this Kingpin, but, you know, I guess you gotta see, you know, are these people incompetent, or are they just manipulated by where they found themselves in their lives, you know? And I think one of the central aspects of this is how we see Dex finding himself in trouble with internal affairs because of how the showdown went down with when the Albanians tried to hit Fisk. You know? And it's honestly one of these very interesting plays throughout it. It's just how we get this storyline with Dex, where he is feeling, you know, and like we said, Dex is very much, he's feeling empowered. He wants to, and I think because he knows he saved Fisk's life and it wasn't worth saving. You know, that's the thing. Is like, I don't think that was like one part of the plan that did not go according to how Fisk wanted. And when he actually survived it, I think it wasn't a change in his plans, but it was like, oh, this is an important, I'm going to put a pin in this, you know. And I think the fact that, I think Dex did not want to save Kingpin per se, but he just also, this is his job and he does his job.
Right. It was legal to kill the Albanians. It would have been trouble if he killed a prisoner, you know.
But again, if Fisk died, I don't think anyone's crying a river, you know. That's the thing.
Right, but he would have been in trouble.
No, because everyone died, you know.
Well, that's a fair point, too. Yeah, I guess it got crazy and people got shot.
You know, being one of the two people that actually got through it, you know, if he saved one of the other guys, which we see he does save our lead Fisk guy. What's his name? Gotta see here once. Nadim. Yeah, I thought it was Nadim, but you know, I couldn't remember if that was also. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Nadim. He saves Nadim, and so just saving Nadim is enough to really justify him. And for what it's worth, Nadim, when it comes all down to it at the end of the day, basically reaches out to Dex to let him know what's going on, to let him be aware, because he knows that, you know, because of him, you know, his wife is not a widow and his son is not without a father. And, you know, that's a really important thing, you know, that, and I guess it's maybe even one of these points that, you know, there are powers you can use for good and there are powers you can use for evil. And even as he's doing what he does, because he is, you know, like they say, the best of what he does, and what he does isn't pretty, he's still doing it on the side of justice and good. He's not, you know, and you can make a statement about whether or not he should have identified himself or given the Albanians the chance to surrender. But, you know, in an actual firefight, I don't even think that's a concern. If I can be cruel about that. You know, that I don't think in an actual firefight, when there is live fire, that quality is, although yes, they should, and he does have that obligation. I think that the amount And here's what I'll really say: the amount of weight that's coming down on him seems disproportionate. Although it might even be that it's just a normal routine investigation, but because of who Dex is, it's overwhelming to him.
Right. That's interesting. And I think that's probably more what's happening. Because you're right. It doesn't seem like it would be as big a deal as it is. He's probably making it more than it is because he's a little crazy. But, he's in an interesting situation. Someone has, every person has, a duality to them. There's your darkness and your light. And unless you understand that darkness within you, because everybody has it, you're not going to be able to placate it in a safe way enough to be able to be a contributing member of society in good standing. Right? So here's a guy who has these impulses, who has a childhood that bore these things in him, and he's found a way to placate those urges and those impulses in a way that is progressive towards society, or like help society move forward,
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I think that is very much what he's doing. And, we do see, that is what he is trying to be, even as he's dealing with his darkness, because again, and that's the real thing about this. And I think, and we do see more of this next week, but I think it's this interesting question of, is it really darkness, or is darkness a thing, or is it just a lack of light, or is it even just, and this is this classic aspect of sociopathology, and is it really an embrace of evil, or is it a inability to feel?
Well, I guess I guess it depends on how you're asking the question. Because it's like, how are you personifying evil in a way that makes it unique, or should we view it from the other side and say evil is simply the action and the effect?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's your classic moral debate.
Yeah. So it depends on what question you're asking. Doesn't matter the intended, but the fact that it was done, and for whatever reason that exists, whatever narrative and story you want to paint over it, that reality of something happened and somebody having done something and somebody, for whatever reason, being able to do something happened.
Is that more, or is that right? But one of the things I think about is, like, if you say intention is central, and it comes to this interesting question. So, and I guess, you can even put it in those Dungeons and Dragons terms of lawful evil and chaotic evil and neutral evil. And so the action brings evil. But what is the motivation? Is the motivation evil, or is it simply devoid of emotion? It's not that someone is seeking to do evil, it is that there is an object in one's way that one must remove, and so I have removed it now. And it is not in and of itself an act of cruelty from the actor's point of view. It's sort of like,
it has to be enjoyed to be evil.
Yeah, I think that there is this idea. Well, I mean, and I'm not saying that's true or not. I'm just saying that this is an idea that you can encapsulate in this, which is that if you do not gain joy from an evil act, is the act. I mean, here's the thing: the consequences are no less evil, but the motivation becomes incredibly different. And it's one of these ideas that when you think about, your classical biblical story of, in the garden, and the tree of knowledge is the knowledge of good and evil. And prior to that, people just were not aware that there was a difference between good and evil, which, if you break it down, means that one could be very evil throughout it, but, their motivation is not evil. Their motivation is simply their basic animal instincts. And I mean, if you want to get really deep into, biblical philosophy and oral tradition of biblical creation, and the idea that Adam is basically basically, if you go into the entire the oral tradition of Lilith as Adam's first wife, which is essentially the idea that Adam essentially... Oh, yes. Oh, okay, yeah. So there's an oral tradition within Jewish folklore that prior to Eve, there was the first wife who was also made from earth, because remember that Eve is made from Adam's rib, and she refused to submit to Adam, which basically suggests that Adam forced himself upon her and she rebuffed him, and it became this whole thing. And
so she was the only woman in the world, and he was the only guy in the world, and she rebuffed him.
That she had other plans for herself, and this goes into like deeper mythological ideas in which she is like the mother of demons, because then she goes and that it is her line that goes along with the Nephilim and things of that nature. Where the various other things that exist in the universe, the other beings that God is speaking to throughout Genesis, because you see he talks to someone and they never really say who he's talking to.
You ever think that maybe these stories are metaphors for like ways of thinking about how even particles have like sets of particles, like electrons and muons and so forth? There's like heavier versions of electrons that exist in dimensions that we can't perceive, that sort of thing. So what if that's just like a fable kind of metaphor for explaining the world in those terms?
I mean, I think, here's what I'll say: you never know. And if people had knowledge of extra dimensional concepts at that point in history, it's entirely possible that comes into it. I think it's more a question of trying to understand moral reality within an inherently chaotic and unfeeling world. I think all religion, that's what it is. It's trying to impose order on a disordered world and to find purpose in it. Because, of course, one thing humans want is to find purpose. Which is, again, I think actually the biggest argument for there being a grander design to the universe, because what is the point of finding purpose in things unless there actually is a purpose? But maybe that's just me trying to find a purpose in things. So, it's a very circular logic. But I think what it is it's an understanding that, at least in that original oral tradition, that there's a difference between evil that comes without malice and evil that comes from malice. That when there is malice to the action, and I don't want to get too much into it, but I think that we do see next episode where we see the first time Dex kills someone. I think there is malice to it, and we do see the guilt to that, and we will talk about that next episode. But it is this idea that there is a difference between that death and the deaths we see here, and the actions taken here. Because here, it's like, I'm doing what I'm doing. I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I really don't like being judged for it. Even if it is, again, like I said, maybe just a purely routine action. But now we saw Matt steal Foggy's wallet last week. And you commented about how much cash he was walking around with. And I basically said, if you grew up without a lot of money, that's you want to keep your treasures with you, because as you say, you don't necessarily trust banks. You get enough overdraft fees, you start thinking that maybe they don't have your best interests at heart. So carrying a lot around with you is not uncommon. But we see what he wanted was his bar association card, so that he could sneak into prison to talk to one of their clients who's a snitch, and hopefully get information on what's going on with Fisk and the Albanians. And this is where we really see Wilson at his finest, because we see that this is almost like all anticipated.
Right. So here's my question. The whole time that he's like viewing the doctor's office on his little monitor, where is Dex? Like, how is he getting a monitor in there? Or like, does he have a computer in his room? Or I thought it was a cell, or it's meant to replicate?
No. It's actually he actually has a very minimalist Art Deco design. Well, not Art Deco, but a very minimalist, brutalist design. That was what I was looking for. That he favors. He favors that brutalist design. We saw that back in the first Daredevil when we see he's just staring at that white wall, and he is perfectly content, because again, I think that is the real difference. If you're going to say, again, when you look at a guy like Dex and you look at a guy like Fisk, where I think every action has malice to it for Fisk. That Fisk is all emotion.
This is an interesting question. Then is Fisk, would that be considered evil, or is he just doing it out of a sense of necessity that he feels? Like his worldview, capitalistic or whatever, I'm messing with that kind of thing. So from that perspective, anything is justified as long as it serves that purpose. And if he's doing it from that belief system, then could that be considered evil? Maybe a different way to think about evil or not is whether what reason you're doing it for or what issue you're trying to accomplish. Like your act, does it serve the greater good or not? Does it serve all people or does it serve yourself? And I think if it serves over, then I could see it being considered evil. Or at least when thinking about Fisk, I think that's the road to say how you would find him as evil.
Well, yeah. Well, I think the issue with Fisk, and again, I think this comes into is there a delight or joy that he finds in it? And this is the thing.
I don't think he does.
Oh, I think he very much finds joy in it. That's the thing. I think, so for example, if the thing with Fisk is if he were a true sociopath, if he was devoid of emotion, Vanessa would mean nothing to him. Really, nothing would mean anything to him. It would literally be him moving through his life. And this, I think, is kind of how Dexter is. I think Dexter is a true sociopath. I don't think Dexter takes joy. He may take pride in shooting things in the same way that someone, like, for example, I think he could shoot like a bottle cap at 50 feet and feel just as much pride as taking out 6 Albanian terrorists or 6 Albanian gangsters.
I think with him, he's a bit of a masochist. He likes tormenting people, or he likes scaring people, or he's a sadist.
Sadist. Masochist is like so Matt is a masochist.
Right. No, but he's the sadist because he gets enjoyment out of that. And so when he's doing his evil things, he's doing it for his own purpose, but Fisk, I don't think he really enjoys it. Like, if he had his way, people would just bow down to him and he would get his way and his business would run and blah, 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 and he wouldn't need to. But, like, he has to get involved in these situations. But he wants to see himself as a more civilized sort of person. But he can't help it. His emotions come over him when he is confronted and that part of him comes out. But he would rather be the soft-spoken, almost elitist kind of personality. But so I don't think he enjoys it. He does it because he feels like he has to, because he's devoted his life to this ideal, this cause of winning and gaining.
Yes.
And so in that respect, but I think the better way to think about whether he's evil or not is like who it serves your act. Does it serve you or does it serve the greater good?
And again, that goes to your central moralistic question of is it the greater good or is it what is your motivation? So, for example, as an example, let us say that I gain joy out of let's say someone goes and does an evil act for their own joy, or they go and do an evil act for a greater good. Does it change the value of? So, for example, let's say there's a politician, and you want to take them out, and you want to take them out because you feel, and I'm saying no specific politician, because on every side there's a politician that you don't want, that you think is ruining the world, that you think if that one person was gone, then everything would be better. But you say, okay, I'm going to go take this action against this one person because I think it's going to make the world better. Or you're going to take that action because you have a visceral hate of this person. So it doesn't even matter if taking them out will actually change anything, but you just have that hatred of that person. So now, in the end, and here we go. We'll just put it in those World War I contexts. When Archduke Ferdinand gets shot, when Franz Ferdinand gets shot, now he could be being shot because he was an evil man and he deserved the cruelty in the mind of the assassin, or he could just be someone who represented a cruelty that needed to be ended, and ending him was the goal to make a better world for you and yours. And I think that understanding that those are two very different motivations. It's a different motivation when you want to. It's a different motivation to be a terrorist or a revolutionary. Let's put it that way. There's a different motivation. I think that a terrorist whose goal is mostly to exact revenge for your actions is more evil than the person who is taking an action because they wish to foment revolution to bring about a better world in their own minds.
Right.
Now, of course, in both cases, the abject outcomes are often universally evil. We're always going to see them as evil for what they've done because so much life and death is damaged because of it. But when we look at that initial act, if morality is a personal question, not a global question, which of course I think is the central question of morality, it becomes very important. Why did you do that thing? Did you do that thing because of hatred or because you felt this was something that needed to be done? And I think that you can break this down on every level and every cruel, petty dictator. I don't think there's one answer, you know. I think that, you know, as with Dex, I think Dex wants to get Fisk's goat when he's being a hard screw to him. That he doesn't get it annoys him, but when he's initially doing it, you can see he's got that little smirk on his face, you know. And how much of that is that he wants to do that to gain pleasure for himself, or he wants to look like a big man in front of his friends. You know, there's all these different things. Like, what are our motivations? Though I think that they are purely venal motivations as opposed to more cardinal motivations that go beyond what the individual action is. But I mean, that's the nature of evil, you know. And one thing about Daredevil is it does like to play with that idea of what is evil and what is good, and are you doing anything positive in what you're doing?
Yeah.
Because I think that's a hard question. And of course, again, like we said, Matt basically gets blindsided, hence the title, because basically the prison is still controlled by Fisk, and he still has, you know, and man, this guy's got like Bruce Wayne money. You know, that's the great thing about criminals in comic book universes is there's never a cash flow shortage. They have got some kind of monopoly on things here, and Fisk is definitely in a great position for this. And there's still an Albanian segment because that's who Matt finds comfort with. But even before this, the orderlies, the guards, they're all on the take, which we've known since Punisher walked out of prison. In Punisher, was that Punisher season 1 or was that in Daredevil season 2? That was Daredevil season 2. The Punisher walked out of prison. You know, because Fisk just said, "Hey, it's better for me if you're out killing my enemies." And so, you know, so we've known this has been Fisk's power for a long time, and we see this in action here. We see from Fisk as he's talking to Matt Murdock that, look, you know, you said you would, you know, that I could have let anything go because really you are nothing to me. But the minute you brought Vanessa into this, you made this personal, you know. And I think, again, these are these things. And when we see with, when Wesley dies in the first season, and these are these precipitating things that when someone hurts someone that Fisk actually cares about, then his actions go well beyond simply let's just adjudicate the problem and come out ahead. It now becomes, no, it is less important how ahead I come from this. I must extract vengeance. you know.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of Fisk's motivation. That is Fisk's motivation here. It doesn't matter.
I think it could also be a bit more pragmatic than that, than to, he's gotten so far in life knowing that you don't leave loose ends. So what's mine is mine. My friends, my family, my money, my power, whatever it is. But if you touch what's mine, I have to end you. Otherwise, there's always a threat that you'll come back to get me. So in a survivalist kind of sense, I think maybe there's a chance he views it as that.
That's another great way to look at it. I mean, that's what's great about these shows, is that there are, when these shows are good, they're really good. And you can always find other ways to talk about them, other ways to see them, and other ways to break them down, And I like that. But we definitely see, and again, this is just such an interesting way that this whole, how the whole prison scene plays out. And I think this is some great fighting we see. There's some...
Yeah, it really was some of the best we've seen in a while, and it sort of paid homage to that first hallway fight scene that started all the hallway fight scenes.
Yes. Well, and that was a great hallway fight scene. And this is a great hallway fight scene too, and it's just kind of cool, and especially because, and what I love about this is that they've drugged Matt, although at no point does the drug ever seem to be kicking in too much, this.
Not
whatever they
much.
Gave him, it sure ain't that stuff they gave the Iron Fist,
Yeah, because I don't know if he squeezed too hard. Like most of the juice was still in there when he stabbed the other guy in the leg with it,
So that might have been.
So he got a little bit. He got a taste. But it was cool that it did affect him a little bit. Yeah. The choreography again was super cool. But there's this one point when the first two guys come in and attack him with the batons. He grabs a guy's hand and tries to almost look like he's going for like a judo toss over the shoulder. And then it doesn't work and they fall down and he has to just work with it and roll into something else. And I thought that was kind of a cool moment, that in the fight that there were little things like they showed something he tried didn't work and he had to improvise and move off and try to do something else, especially considering he was a little bit
good. And not for nothing, that's like some great choreography, because I think sometimes it's like the perfect choreography. I won't say it's easy, but it's easier to do than when you have to make it look like you wanted to do one thing, and then we have to change it and go into something else. It's a much more complex dance it's much harder to do a dance that looks improvised than to do a dance that it looks rehearsed, and I think that's one of the I think the fight choreography on Daredevil, they really did pull out the stops for this third and final season, sadly. But it is great, and we do see Matt gets the information he needs, and he gets out, and the Albanians get him out and get him into the cab where the drugs finally take effect. But then we realize the cab was Fisk's too the whole time.
Either that, or they saw, hey, this is the cab that Matt came in. Hey, let's kill the driver right quick and put our guy in there,
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. I mean, if you want to go that far out on it, or even just say, hey, cabby, here's $1,000. Can we steal your cab? And not for nothing, that works. And we basically see Matt coming to, and the car being put into
the East River.
Put into the East River, yeah, or the Hudson. I don't know. I don't know which side he fell off, and actually I don't even know what if that was in Brooklyn or where they were when he fell in.
They weren't in Hell's Kitchen at the time?
No, there's no prison in Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, that's right. They were in a prison, right.
Yeah, they walked away. I mean, as far as I know, that might have been upstate somewhere, So, yeah. But I assume it was probably Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Rikers, though there is a bridge to Rikers, I think. I think there's a bridge to Rikers, but anyway. And so that was the end of Matt Murdock, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, once again.
Yes, once again.
The immortal Matt Murdock.
Yes. Anyway, final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
Yeah, it's really heating up. I thought this was one of the best episodes so far. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked this episode. I mean, I like the next one even better, I'll be honest.
I know. It was like I got so excited about this one, then I saw the next one. I was like, oh my God, what a great episode.
Well, and this is the thing. I think that they're really pushing it, and I think they're going to end. They end strong in this. I think Daredevil has a great ending overall. I think from all of our Netflix shows, I think Daredevil, which of course, it's the one that starts it, and it's kind of almost sad that it's not the one that gets to finish it. But it ends really strongly. I haven't really watched Punisher yet, and Jessica Jones is not yet, so I can't say how well those work out yet. But and of course, obviously, no one's seen Jessica Jones yet except for Jessica Jones. But I really love how this one is playing out, and can't wait to talk the next episode with you, Mozz. So, in the meantime, if people would like to find you, how can they track you down?
Or they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way there are Mozz and Poz wants to. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at thegmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which, hey, me and Mozz are going to be talking about soon, hopefully, and Orville and Gotham when I can. Not tonight because we're doing this, but still. I'll be doing that at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
Bing!
For quality. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again here on The Devil You. Good night.